joined by former Secretary of State and CIA Director Mike Pompeo, a senior counsel for global affairs at the ACLJ. I want to get right into this, Secretary Pompeo, because now we've heard from a second intelligence agency within the U.S. government, the Department of Energy, and this is coming out at an interesting time, too, about reasons why, but has concluded that the COVID-19 pandemic stemmed from a lab leak, and that came from their intelligence sources. That kind of follows the FBI that came to a similar assessment, which was very different than what we were being told by the government and a lot of talking heads in the science world early on that said it was basically impossible. What's your reaction to the news of this latest DOE assessment?
Well, Jordan, they're getting close to getting right. As I have said since, I think it's March of 2020, the almost certain location that this virus began was in the laboratory, the WIV laboratory in Wuhan, China. I think that the Chinese Communist Party government knew about this since at least the fall of 19, and they covered it up in all the ways that we seem to have forgotten. But to have the Department of Energy come out and say that it's good, the State Department under my leadership made a lot of the evidence available in the public. It is pretty clear, Jordan, that while nothing is certain with respect to this because the Chinese covered it up, it is almost certain that this virus began in a laboratory in Wuhan, China, and then was sent around the world at the direction of Xi Jinping.
You know, Mike, you tweeted out yesterday that there was always enormous evidence that the Wuhan coronavirus leaked from the Wuhan labs you just discussed, and I'm glad the Department of Energy recognizes reality. It's past time to make the CCP pay. I have been saying that same thing. We have a trade situation with the Communist Party of China. They own a lot of U.S. debt. They wreaked havoc on the United States and the rest of the world, for that matter. Making them pay looks like what, in your view? What would that look like?
That's a very important point. It's hard to put it in isolation, but think about the lives lost and the billions of dollars destroyed, not only here in the United States but around the world. The Chinese Communist Party should be on the hook for that.
Yep.
There are mechanisms by which, you know this. You've litigated things much like this before at the ACLJ. I'm sure you guys are thinking about it now too. So there are tools to do that, but it first and foremost takes a U.S. government that is prepared to do what I talked about in that tweet, which was lay out the evidence publicly, the things that we know about how this escaped from the lab. And so there is a compensation mechanism. There are tools that we can impose real costs on them. The Biden administration made an enormous mistake by re-entering the World Health Organization, the very international group designed to prevent pandemics, that came out and said the Chinese are doing a great job. It seems like so long ago. You know, they said, hey, Xi Jinping's doing a great job, while millions of people now have died as a result of the decisions that the Chinese Communist Party leadership made.
You know, it was I just want to follow up on that if I can, and that is, when you all were in office, I had conversations dealing with this issue of compensation to the United States and like you said, in the rest of the world for the havoc that this brought. There were multiple mechanisms which can be utilized in international tribunals, among other things, that could have really had an impact on this. This administration, Mr. Secretary, doesn't seem to be so interested in that. Now, hopefully we get a new administration in a couple of years. It's not too late. There's no statute of limitations issue here. Would you take direct action if you were calling the shots on this?
100%. It's decent. It's moral. It's right. It will also benefit the world and the American people by reducing the risk that this will ever happen again. We shouldn't forget, Jay, that lab that we're all talking about, it seems like history, it's still open. It's still engaged in the same kind of research. I hope there's no American money, as it appears that there was, to do gain-of-function research there. So I hope we've gotten smarter about that. I don't know what the State Department is doing. But the reason one goes after this, the reason that you want to make clear that the Chinese Communist Party has to be held accountable is not only to recompense those who were harmed, but to deter them from doing this again. They're still at it. They're still engaged in these programs. It is just a thread in the cloth, right? They flew a balloon over us. You could go through the list. Chinese Communist Party presents a real danger, and we have to hold them accountable on every front.
Yeah, going to that, I want to switch to China and their role in Ukraine. So they put out a 12-point peace plan. We are continuing to send military aid to Ukraine, but we have seen nothing like that from the U.S. government publicly, at least. A plan to how would this come to a conclusion. But what do you think about and how the world is viewing, I guess, China's attempt at being a peacemaker, if you will, and trying to be a major leader on the world stage.
You sound appropriately skeptical there, Jordan. Look, this peace plan is no more than a Russian propaganda document. It calls for an immediate ceasefire, gives Putin the time to rearm, rebuild, and to continue his efforts. The Chinese are not remotely serious at this, and worse, this iron triangle between Russia and China and Iran now appears to be strengthening. Weapons going back and forth, energy being transferred from these places. The three of them decided that they, 150 plus countries around the world, they have two friends apiece, and that is real risk. The Chinese Communist Party is green-lighting Vladimir Putin's destruction of the nation of Israel.
You have up on aclj.org a piece called Biden's Weakness on Full Display After a Year of Russia's War on Ukraine, and it's not getting any better. The truth is, it's not getting any better. Where is, based on, you ran the CIA too, so you've got a wealth of knowledge here in addition to being Secretary of State. Where does this go in the next 6 months or a year?
Jay, the other thing I have an advantage of is I did get to spend time with Vladimir Putin as well.
Yep.
If we continue, my point was, and by the way, there are many conservatives that disagree with me. I just think we've got to bring this war to an end, and there's only one way to do that, and that is to give the Ukrainians the tools that they need to be successful. In the absence of that, if we dribble them out, if we provide them slowly, if we think about it for a year because we're afraid we're going to provoke Vladimir Putin, then I fear that a year from now we will be sitting looking at something that looks like World War I. It will be a stalemate. More innocent civilians killed in Ukraine, that's bad. Vladimir Putin still in control of Ukrainian territory and feeling like time is on his side, that's bad. But most importantly for the United States and the people here, you'll still have all of the ramifications that we can see so plainly now. Xi Jinping's watching this one too. If a year from now America continues to just provide piecemeal assistance, I promise you Xi Jinping will see that as a green light to act in the South Pacific and against Taiwan as well.
The last thing here, and that is going on to a domestic front for a moment, and that is the way the country is operating right now reminds me, a lot of people aren't going to remember this, but I do, and that is the Jimmy Carter years. It just has that malaise. Stock market erratic, inflation high, unemployment low, which is good that unemployment's low, but job salaries are not keeping up with inflation when it's up at 8%. There is this general sense of frustration. I mean, you saw a majority of the Democrats polled do not want Joe Biden to run again. So politically, how do we recharge with optimism going forward for the generation that's behind us?
The good old-fashioned way. Yeah, I'm convinced. We're going to figure this out here in America. I've been out all across the country last year and a half. People are fired up. People get that their kids are being taught garbage in schools, and they are taking back control. Parents are taking back control. I've seen folks do this in their churches and their synagogues all across America. They are saying, we're going to go restore the greatness of America from the ground up. That's how we do it. That's how we've always done it. I'm convinced that there will be leaders, not just folks that run for president or Senate, but city councilmen, district attorneys, school board members all across the country who say, yep, we're headed the wrong direction. We're going to go fix it. They'll take it on their own shoulders. And the American family will be stronger as a result of that. Our faith communities will be, and America will get back to the right place. I'm very confident of that, Jay.
Yeah, very good.
As always, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Senior Counsel for Global Affairs, great insight. Great to have you on